morning's number is 36 billion. Global in vitro fertilization, also known as IVF, is set to reach roughly $36 billion in market size by 2026. That's according to the Fortune Business Insights, which attributes increasing cases of infertility worldwide to the market's growth. And in case you're not familiar with IVF, it is a fertilization process that combines sperm and egg manually in a lab. It gives people who might not be able to conceive for various reasons an alternative way to get pregnant. According to Fertility Answers, the natural fertility rate is only about 20%, and 90% of infertility cases can be overcome through science. So that is why we are digging into the growing IVF market for today's Focus of the Day on Femtech. Shonali Bassick is away doing bank earnings, but I'm really fortunate to have with us here in our New York headquarters Paxton Maeder-York, CEO and founder of Alife Health, and also Deena Shakir, partner at Lux Capital, which invests in Alife. Deena also sits on their board, and Alife just announced a Series A fundraise of $22 million. Thank you both for being here. Paxton, I just wanted to start with you because there's a few IVF tech platforms that are out there that are trying to do something similar to Alife. What makes Alife different?
Yeah, great to be here again. Thanks for having us on. So one of the big differences between how we're approaching the problem and many of the other companies is really focusing on the entire solution and looking not just at a single step of the IVF process, but really trying to optimize every major stage of the patient journey in addition to the patient experience. So when we're thinking about IVF, there are multiple different stages from helping the mother produce as many eggs as possible, to fertilizing those eggs into embryos, to selecting the best embryo to transfer, to ultimately transferring that embryo back into the mother. Alife is working to leverage artificial intelligence and advanced analytics to improve every step of that process and sync that with a very easy-to-use patient application that improves the patient experience.
So Paxton, right now, it sounds like you're saying that the applications that are out there right now targets specific things, but taking maybe a more holistic approach is the way to tackle this issue?
Absolutely. And the other important aspect about anything in data science or AI is having a really diverse and very large data set. And Alife has worked with many of the largest clinicians and clinics in the United States and internationally. And we have the largest and most diverse data set ever collected in this sector. And that allows us to find really important insights and also avoid any bias in our algorithms. And so it really differentiates us in terms of how we're thinking about the problem and the scale at which we're building solutions.
And Deena, I want you to jump in here because you are known to invest in a lot of women's tech-related, femtech as we're calling it. What about AI do you think is really sort of the differentiator right now in advancing women's health?
Thanks, Jennifer. Well, at Lux, we invest in deep technology companies on the cutting edge of turning science fiction into fact. And fundamentally, the issues with infertility can be addressed through multiple platforms. There can be direct-to-consumer, content platforms. There can be care delivery platforms. But when it comes to improving outcomes and actually enabling families to have children, it goes down to the fundamental data set, as Paxton said. And Alife is building the largest, the most diverse, that's actually reflective of the world that we live in. And starting with better data and advanced computer vision and artificial intelligence, you can actually drive towards better outcomes, better efficacy, better efficiency for clinics, and ultimately better health equity, which is a part of our thesis.
Can you talk about the data set? Because I think I've covered AI a lot, and that is a lot of the concern with AI, is that it's not representative. Paxton, maybe you can tell us what is the makeup of your data set, and how do you assure people that you are sort of including what the makeup of the country looks like, as Deena said?
Yes, so we have about 2.5 million rows of data in our data set, and this has been collected from all the largest clinics, both here domestically and internationally. And our demographics really wonderfully match one-to-one to the demographics of the United States. And unfortunately, we know that historically minority individuals have not been well represented in research across medical sectors and specifically in fertility. And so we're doing a lot of foundational research actually on how we can help groups of different minority patients have better outcomes. And we unfortunately know that minority individuals are more highly likely to have fertility struggles, but are less likely to receive care. And when they do receive care, are less likely to have successful outcomes. And so all of these things play in, and we're able to leverage our algorithms and our really pattern recognition enhanced with computers to figure out what we can do to improve those outcomes and deliver better care to all those individuals that are seeking support.
Deena, how is the medical community sort of basically reacting to some of these advancements? Are they on board with what it is that Alife and others are doing, or are they still a little hesitant to trust some of these new technology advancements?
It's a great question. I mean, historically, there have been a number of companies that have emerged in purely, directing patients or consumers and working outside of the healthcare infrastructure. And we know in healthcare that it's difficult to scale, and that you need to work in partnership, in tandem with clinicians and experts. And so one of the many things that drove me to investing in Alife is their incredibly robust clinical advisory board, their partnerships with some of the best and biggest clinics, not only in the U.S., but around the world. Some of the top clinicians that have come on board as advisors and are endorsing it and working in tandem. And that's how they'll be able to actually work with patients and also ultimately improve the outcomes for the clinics and get to better health equity through ultimately reducing prices and the number of cycles required to have a healthy pregnancy.
When do we start seeing those numbers reflective, Deena? I mean, considering all the innovation that's happening, what is it that sort of you're waiting for to say that we're reaching this sort of next step in progressing this conversation forward?
Yeah, it's not a problem that's going to be solved with one solution, and that's part of why Alife is building a platform. There's an issue around misinformation with fertility, starting with with the consumer side of things. There are challenges with even accessing care. There are only a certain number of clinics. If anyone is lucky enough to live near one, they have to wait months to get on, to actually get an appointment. The cost for a single cycle is incredibly prohibitive for most of the country. And so starting with the diagnostic ability to actually predict a healthy pregnancy using technologies, to take the process right now, which is incredibly analog and manual and can result in human error, and streamline that, is ultimately what Alife is seeking to do in clinics. But they're also going to be launching an incredible experience for patients as well. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, Paxton, maybe you can end on that, just sort of what the user should be expecting, because we just had a full screen up there, $25,000 for just one cycle of IVF. So what is it that Alife is going to bring that down to, and when is the user going to see some of these advancements that Deena was talking about?
Yeah, so we're in the process of launching several of the components of our tech platform, and the future of IVF. We know that only about 1.6% of our births in the United States are through IVF, but globally that number should be much higher, closer to 5 or even 10%. And so what we're working to do is build a cohesive technology platform that can really push this industry to the next level, so that more patients can receive care and ultimately take home a baby at the end of the day. In terms of our technology, our patient app, which is going to be available to anyone going through IVF to help them stay organized, as well as integrate their support systems and their partners into the experience, is coming online later on this summer. We're running pilot sites as well as clinical studies to prove out the technology, and those are going to be launching on the AI side for the clinic a little bit later on towards the end of the year. And so patients that are interested should go to alifehealth.com, sign up for early access to our app. They should talk to their clinicians about whether or not they're expecting to use artificial intelligence to improve their ability to deliver top-notch care. And ultimately, we hope that this will be available to clinics near patients soon.
And Paxton, I just wanted to end on, because I think it's important to note that you are a male founder who is working towards advancing women's health. So I wonder sort of, where do you get the guidance from? I mean, how much are you leaning on people like Deena or the clinicians? Sort of what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate to have such a strong group of people surrounding the business, whether it's our all-female board, or we're 50% actually majority women in leadership and the rest of the technical team, and then our incredible 30-person clinical advisory board, who are really the top clinicians and doctors around the country and internationally in this sector, are all advising us and supporting us and making sure that what we're building is truly going to be clinically meaningful, and we're delivering against our core mission of personalizing and democratizing and modernizing fertility care globally.
Stay tuned. Paxton Maeder-York, CEO and founder of Alife Health, and also Deena Shakir, partner at Lux Capital. Thank you both so much for your time and for joining us at our headquarters this morning. All right, we're back in 2 minutes. This is Quick Take Charge.